We'll get a clock in here at some point.
I'll just set to council.
Next budget cycle.
All rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. We'll do a quick roll call here. Baumgartner. Here. Evers. Here. Ferguson is absent. I am here. Howard.
Yep.
We do have a quorum. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start the meeting off with the public forum part of the meeting. Now's the time where the public can come forward and address council with issues or information out there in the community. If somebody from the public does want to approach council, we ask that you state your name for the record. So anybody from public wants to address council, now is the time. Not seeing any movement there, so we'll call the public forum part of the meeting completed here and move on with the setting of the agenda. We were provided with agenda on Friday. I've had ample time to look it over. Anything out of the consent agenda need to be pulled out into discussion?
I just need to be brought up to speed on these, but
You talking about B, C, D, and E?
Yeah.
And F?
yes.
So I can clarify real quick, Mr. Mayor, if I
I've
can.
got F, I know what that one is, but the other,
This is to close down the Depew Avenue project funding. So we are closing the bonds for our interim financing for the Depew Avenue project and getting the bonds with USDA. So USDA will be wiring us the money to pay off these interim bonds for the financing for this project. So this is all of that bureaucraticness that goes along with closing those bonds.
So these are all planned money management moves here.
Yes. With our bond counsel, Mariable.
Okay, with that, I'll ask for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
so moved.
Motion's been made by Howard. Do I got a second?
Second.
Seconded by Baumgartner to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved as written. We'll move down to the consent agenda. It includes meeting minutes from January 21, resolution 12, accepting the offer of the United States of America to purchase $147,000 taxable general obligation sewer revenue bond. Resolution 13, for the same party to purchase $553,000 taxable general obligation utility revenue bond. Resolution 14 for the same party to purchase a $3.094 million taxable general obligation sewer revenue bond. Resolution 15 to the same party to purchase a $4.309 million taxable general obligation utility revenue bond. Resolution 16, which is a formal endorsement of the Olivia Fire Relief Association retirement plan. Item G is electric department purchase order for underground project materials. We have public works purchase order for some road grader repairs and the January disbursements. Call for a motion to approve the consent agenda. So
Second.
motion's been made by Eber, seconded by Baumgartner to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Consent agenda carries as written, and we're moving down to discussion items here. Looks like all the staff and department heads have put together a really nice summary of the operations and business of the city of Olivia for year 2024, and we'll have Elizabeth kind of touch on some important bullet points here.
Yeah, you have the report in front of you. A major kudos goes out to all of the city staff, some who are in the room tonight, others who are not, who contributed. I don't know if this has been compiled before or offered to you, but it's something I wanted to get in the habit of as a best practice so that you could see the annual accomplishments of each department and what we're doing every single year. So we're gonna go over the highlights. Again, a more extensive report was included But just to kind of review, so kind of just some big umbrella accomplishments, the city, oh yes, sorry.
Can we make this available on the website, like,
Yes,
just as a real standard link
real standard,
right up
yep.
front where nobody needs to sift through
we
agendas and that?
certainly, we can put it on the homepage.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Very nice report.
So some major just umbrella accomplishments for 2024. In April, you all adopted a new comprehensive plan, so this is kind of what's guiding the city's development and progress and growth and ideas for staff for the next 10 years. In June, bids were approved for the remodel and addition of City Hall, which we are sitting in today. With construction hopefully being expected completed spring 2025. We've really increased our connection with the community. We've done a lot more with our social media presence, our YouTube channel. We have a new city website that makes our materials more accessible. We're putting out at least monthly articles in the Renville Register. We're engaging with the community through the Bold Career Fair, Corn Capital Days, outdoor movies in the park, holiday happenings. So we're really trying to get out, make sure we're available throughout the community. Also, as a really exciting investment, Nuvera, the internet company, decided to select Olivia for their $200 million infrastructure multi-year project, bringing fiber internet options to our residents. For the police department, you can see here their call volume has really increased throughout the past 3 years. The police department is fully staffed, and that will allow them to increase their proactive patrol activity. So you might have read in the report that there's been some increased traffic stops. A lot of these stops are in warning, they're wanting to educate the public. They've also re-implemented after-hours business door checks for our businesses in the communities. They've been able to attend over 15 trainings. OPD now has certified instructors in a variety of options, so OC spray, taser, data master breath testing, defensive tactics, and firearms. They also spent a large amount of time this year reorganizing evidence in storage areas. So they've addressed past discrepancies, they've implemented more effective processes to maintain up-to-date and accountable evidence chain of command. You can see here kind of their data broken down into the categories. Some noteworthy cases that they signaled out was the Haney construction theft. The suspects have been identified, the investigation's ongoing. There's a large embezzlement case under investigation. The bomb threat at Bold, which concluded it was a hoax. There was an electrical business in Olivia burglarized. They assisted in vehicle pursuit, and then over 50 grams of methamphetamine was taken off the streets in the 2024. For the fire department, here's their call breakdown. So a reminder, their service area is 106 square miles. They have 27 volunteer firefighters. They offer 22 trainings this year. They've been out in the community with Family Fun Night, the Corn Escort, the various parades, and of course Rib Fest being their primary community event that they partner with lots of other fire departments throughout the county. For our electric utilities, some highlighted achievements for 2024, a pole attachment agreement that I know was in the works prior to me even arriving. They only had one unexpected system outage. The customer was out of power for 42 minutes. This was due to a storm and a tree falling. Other than that, there was some planned outages, but those planned outages are very short because they do a lot of proactive planning and communication. One outage, I was impacted and I didn't even notice. The main project was, of course, the large undergrounding conversion project that took place in conjunction with City Hall. And then here you can see some of their infrastructure updates, the poles that have replaced, underground transformers replaced, services converted. You can also see that, they've been working closely with Bold schools and other city businesses to really make sure that we're maintaining our structure. They infrared the entire underground distribution system to help check for different losses and where different maintenance items might need to be replaced. They trim trees around the power lines, those types of maintenance items. For our water department, the total water pumped this year was 76 million gallons. Average daily pumping is 230,000 gallons a day. So we have over 24 miles of water main throughout the city, 236 hydrants, which they flush annually to maintain the water flow for our fire emergency response. They did 90 water meter repairs and they handled over 500 digging requests. So many of our departments handled these 500 digging requests because of the large underground fiber coming to the city. So the water treatment plant, it's designed to remove iron and manganese. So you can see here in our 2024, the report shows those levels were ranging within the accepted limits. And then we finalized a water tower attachment agreement as well. For wastewater, so total wastewater treated 120 million gallons. They maintain 4 lift stations, 27 miles of our collection system piping, 425 manholes. And so they've been doing a really good job there. Our storm sewer system, what that is maintained in conjunction with Public Works. So they fixed 3 different manholes, they vacuumed and cleaned catch basins. They cleaned out the outlet tile in our holding pond multiple times due to beaver activity in the pond. They also work to sweep the city streets in both the spring and the fall to help make sure that all of the leaves and grass and everything are kept out of that storm sewer system. In the utilities account maintenance, so at the end of 2024, there was a total of 1,533 active utility accounts in the city system. Throughout the past year, there were 207 account changes, either due to ownership or renter changes. You will know that city staff identified an issue with utility account billing at the beginning of this year. We've rectified those issues, as well as we've implemented new oversight moving forward, to help make sure that undercharge versus overcharge, and that all of our rates have been converted to 2024 to 2025 rates for this new yearly billing cycle. The city does provide a clean energy choice for utility account customers, residential customers. We have 35 residential accounts that are participating in that program. So here you can see City Hall, kind of a graph of different operations. This year we tracked our phone calls answered, people who called in to do phone utility payments, who did Dropbox payments, walk-in payments, and mail-in payments. So you can see the different activity throughout the year. EDA, some highlights is that the board every year identifies different priorities. In 2024, they identified promoting recreational opportunities, increasing housing, supporting daycare services, and revitalizing downtown. So some success stories in 2024, obviously the sale of the former Dirk's Furniture Building was a big success story for our community. There was also recognition of our Main Street program. It was awarded a public-private partnership award by Rethos for the work it's been doing with the Corncade. EDA did not provide any loans or grants to local businesses in 2024. There were some inquiries, but nothing ever finalized. We do have a couple in the pipeline for 2025. They did offer some tax abatement to a local business option, but the project ended up going a different direction. And they've been working on the tail end of 2024 to establish a new business grant program. And we hope to have that available in 2025. New businesses in our community, hopefully you've all poked your heads in. Patina Pickers, Rural Authentic Wellness, Gathered, Olivia Storage LLC. Some significant investments that have been happening in the city. The Olivia Ambulance has a new state-of-the-art facility next to the hospital. The Bold Public School has started their construction on their remodel. The Heinz Building, which I believe is Amplify Fitness, did a huge facade update. And of course, our own City Hall Public Safety Building project. For downtown revitalization, the Depew Avenue project is completed. Private businesses have really kind of stepped up, and a lot of them have done their own exterior updates to bring some life and beauty back to downtown. And the large planter pots were added this previous year. Those were purchased with grants from Main Street and the county EDA to bring in some seasonal color that we've received a lot of positive feedback on. So finance, the city budgeted for several important capital and operational expenditures, a police vehicle, again, the Depew Avenue project, the public safety building, airport improvements, park improvements, and then 2 new lawnmowers were purchased. The finance department also did that capital improvement plan work session to get everybody on the same page with what our CIP looked like for the next 10 years. They also worked hard to do a credit card fee negotiation, which saved the city around $29,000. For deputy clerk and human resources, the city hosted a total of 29 city council meetings in 2024. We also upgraded our technology to enhance public access with our temporary move. This actually saved us $5,000 by putting it together through staff initiative as opposed to working with a contractor. We made a lot of good progress in digitizing our records, improving that accessibility, and then we did do some key policy and ordinance updates, which you have in your packets. Here you can see a breakdown of the licenses and permits the clerk did. Elections, this was a busy year for elections, as you all are probably aware, so a total of 1,095 people participated in our city elections. The general election had an 88.9% voter turnout, which is really impressive. We did some hiring this year, vacant positions have been filled. Really proud to announce to you today that City Hall is fully staffed today. Every department has who they need. Planning and zoning, here you can see a different breakdown of all the different permits and applications that were received by planning and zoning, our development applications and our land use permits. And then on the next slide, you can see a breakdown of the residential building permits and then the non-residential building permits that came through planning and zoning this year. Additional projects they worked on, they're the ones who had to recommend the comprehensive plan to you all. They updated their bylaws. We updated B3 central business to allow the residences there to make minor improvements. Of course, cannabis and hemp has been a big point of discussion this year, as the state decides what they're doing with that. Downtown revitalization, getting rid of storage facilities or future storage facilities in our downtown. They did a variance for the Bold School District, the conditional use permit, and they're looking at things like our sign code, accessory dwelling units, and the airport zoning ordinance. Public Works applied street mastic to 28 blocks and completed seal coating on 28 blocks of streets and parking lots. They spread 100 loads of gravel across 3 miles of gravel roads. They sprayed for mosquitoes 6 times. They trimmed trees throughout the city, and they moved snow a total of 4 times during the year. Our different park improvements that we saw in 2024, Henton Park saw a new basketball court and improvements to the warming house. They also saw the beginning of the skating rink in December and a snow pile. We have a fence around the new pickleball court. Phase 2 of the trail is now available for people to walk on. Dirks Park, the concession stand has gotten some upgrades, as well as fencing at Dirks Park Ball Field. And then the pool was tackled this year as well. Here you can see the total sales breakdown of our liquor store. So liquor sales were pretty stable. Beer and wine experienced declines. Miscellaneous item sales also decreased. However, THC products saw an impressive 131.58% increase in sales. Part of that increase though is because we have a full year of data. The year before we didn't have a full year of data, but they've obviously been seeing a lot of excitement generated around that. The airport recorded 2,300 takes-offs and landings. All hangar spaces are filled. And then we had some airport improvements like a milling project, crack sealing project, a new flex swing mower was purchased, and we're currently in the process of updating our airport zoning ordinance. And so that was a very brief rundown. More details are found in your packet, but I just want to take a minute and highlight all the great things your city team has accomplished in the past year.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. You know, you sit on this table here and things happen throughout the year and you don't realize how much happens in a calendar year. And the report is just a really good illustration on how busy our departments are to maintain a high quality of life for our community. So thank you to all you guys out there doing the good work and making everybody happy to be here.
So we don't just lean on a shovel.
No, obviously you don't. Any comment from the council?
Yeah, when you put it all, stack it all together, it's an impressive list. It's like I remember those things, but
Right.
it's like it kept
Was
going.
it 2 years?
Yeah, I kept going.
Yes.
It was a busy year.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
I just have a question.
sure.
Where does what is considered wastewater in our community?
It's what goes down drains in your house,
The sanitary sewer.
the sanitary sewer.
Okay, so we total water pumped was 76 million gallons of water,
Mhm.
but we treated 120 million gallons of water.
You have to think of all the fluids coming out of your body that we aren't putting into the system.
It's also I&I, infiltration, leaky pipe,
Okay.
some pumps that aren't going the right way, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's definitely, I see what you're saying though, definitely a discrepancy there.
Yeah, that's-
Wastewater will always be higher.
Well, higher is one thing, but that's quite a bit. So
Yeah. Yeah, there's some of the months where there's over 28 million go through the plant in 1 month, and we pumped 5 million at the water plant.
But we're trying to constantly keep our.
That's what
pipes
we're trying to
updated.
fix.
Yeah,
That's why we sent out a reminder this year when those rains were bad to make sure people's sub pumps were going out instead of in. Because if it's going in and not being directed out to the storm sewer, which is where it needs to be, it's overflowing our sanitary sewer.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to educate people on sub pumps.
if we get a heads up when the state does their sulfite testing, we can tell people to pump them into there. And dilute it better.
Dilute the water.
You know, that 120 million might not be so bad.
Yeah.
Good questions, anything else? All right, well, thank you so much, Elizabeth, and thank you to the department heads and also, you know, all the staff for keeping the machine well oiled. Your community appreciates you.
It's a strong report.
Okay, Olivia Police Department squad car discussion. Looks like we're scheduled for a squad car replacement. And we're gonna talk about what to do with the old one.
Yeah, so I think you've got the memorandum, some information on that. Historically, we replace squads, well, we save one every 2 years, we buy a new one. This year, we're looking at buying another car, or we've just purchased another vehicle, and we'd like to maintain a fleet of 5 instead of 4 this year. One of the goals, when Chief Lee retired, was to increase our department staffing, so each officer had a take-home squad, basically their mobile office. And you've got some explanations in the memorandum, so I'm here to see if there's any questions regarding that, any concerns about officers having take-home squads, increasing our fleet to 5. The increase, like I said, we don't have an increase on our CIP. We're still changing the purchase every 2 years and rotating them out. That's basically what we're looking at, but again, we've never had a limit on the squads. It's just one of those things that a lot of towns have, well, this is what we've always done. Well, things have changed tremendously in law enforcement. Everything from, we no longer can expect officers to live directly in our city. If we want a full-time officer, we have to flex just like the rest of the state and quite frankly, the rest of the world. So we have take-home squads. Obvious reasons for response times. What do you have for questions regarding this before I go any further?
We got 4 cars now
Yes,
and we wanna go to 5.
we have 5,
We have 5
yes,
and you wanna buy,
we wanna keep it.
keep it.
Yeah,
Okay, we talked about this some months ago, right?
right, and
And
we,
that's what we decided we were gonna talk about it in the future.
yeah, we've had the 4th car and it hasn't increased anything on our budget. You've got your annual expenses, your tires. Pay brakes, whatever, basic minimal charges and fees. So short of that, we're not increasing any expenses on our budget, we're not budgeting for more. We're just using what we already have.
Do we have the CIP graph we can show?
We can, yeah, so the CIP, as Chief explained, it doesn't necessarily talk about a limit to squads, it just shows that you are replacing a squad every 2 years.
Mhm.
So previously it was discussed you're replacing 4 squads every 2 years, this would now be 5 squads every 2 years. Which would mean that those squads, each squad is individually on the road longer than it would have been.
It's not used as much weekly, but it'll be in our fleet longer.
Right,
Oh, so you're not replacing every car 2 years, it's one car every 2 years, so
We'll
you'll
replace
have it
it.
10 years before you replace
Yeah,
it.
we'll either replace the oldest vehicle in the fleet or the one that's causing the
jump
most
through.
problems with repairs.
Okay,
We just use our own discretion on that.
and so by doing that, it doesn't stretch the budget, it fits inside the budget then?
Right, we haven't increased our budget at all for that purpose over last year, even having 4 squads.
And then it increases your readiness?
Correct. Correct. Yeah, we're not swapping cars. We have multiple times, we'll have an officer in training, we'll have one on calls, we'll have a car in the shop. So, and it's one of those things where you can't borrow from Sheriff Havel or rental, you can't borrow a squad car. We're all on call, so there's times where we have to respond when the phone rings, and we don't have time to. All right, let's fire up this car, get it defrosted, go to wherever the other squad car is, get that defrosted, jump in that and then respond.
Yeah, so if there's 5 people on call and you need all 5 and you only have 4 vehicles, and well, you've got 5 now, but if we ever had 4,
Yeah.
and what happens with the 5th officer then?
You're looking at it, I'll drive my truck to the office or wherever I have to,
Okay,
which again, brings a whole nother set of liabilities, but. I won't take chances, but I've had to do that in the past and it is what it is, at times it happens, we prefer not to,
Mhm.
but.
I don't wanna use the word only because we're talking about real money, but. Estimated resale value on these as they retire them out is only like $4,000 or $5,000.
I personally would think that's high, but yes, there's not a big demand for them. And now recently with the Fords, we have the Fords and their track record is unfortunately pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I don't think the value is even there that used to be there because everybody or a lot of law enforcement agencies have gone away from those because of the mechanical issues they're experiencing, which obviously brings down the value of even the used ones.
Yeah, short of selling them at public auction, you're not gonna get much for them anywhere else.
No, and I don't know what Sheriff Havel's gotten for his, and I think they've chosen to just reuse some of them within the county because you're not getting any money for them.
Yeah, and I think the last ones that he had that went up last fall were $3,000 or $4,000 on the auction site. They weren't much.
No.
But it's a vehicle that, whether it spends a considerable amount of time idling or whatnot like that, the wear and tear on it may not be the same as
The mileage
the
states.
mileage states, but it's still, it's a victim of the circumstance that it's in.
you have the grab.
Yeah,
There you go.
I've personally kind of been on both sides of this decision and
That's the-
looking at, when Matt mentions the word readiness, you look at that and kind of realize that this isn't going to be, selling these isn't really gonna be adding much back to the police budget. I'm under the impression that, the extra, not the extra, but the full fleet is worth more than 4,000 or 5,000 every 2 years.
I agree with that 100%. Making sure that we've got usable vehicles for all of our officers instead of one having to hitchhike to a scene in one form or another. Public safety is a priority and it should always be a priority. So making sure that these vehicles are available for our officers,
And you're staying right on budget, you're just stretching out the other ones.
Right.
to
Yeah.
Put a 5th one in.
Yep.
Yep.
So I don't see any problem with this.
Is it a consensus then to direct staff to hold on to the 5th?
You'll be seeing then a proposal, the proposal is to do a 5th car this year because they've been behind.
Sure.
So you'll see that coming up to maintain a five squad car fleet.
Excellent, all right, well, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
gentlemen.
Everybody?
Thank you.
Thank you, chief.
Stay safe out there, guys.
Let's take chances.
All right. Or let's scroll up. There's a paper copy in here. All right, now an update on the Olivia Chrysler Center.
Well, good evening, y'all. Elizabeth, do you want me to jump in or do you want to set the stage?
Go for it.
Okay. By the way, the little bit I can see, the space looks amazing.
We're excited to give you a full tour when you're here in person.
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't make it this evening. I had some family appointments that I had to make earlier today, so my apologies, because I'm excited for y'all. So I wanted to update you on the status of the agreement. We still haven't seen a final yet. I received an email, I'm looking at it on my screen right now at 11 a.m. on Friday, from the Dworsky's attorney, Ms. Plunkett, saying she appreciated the update that I provided, that, again, reaffirmed what we heard from the council from the last meeting, that there is in existence right now a public road, that you are open to, a location of a new road, but you wouldn't be vacating something, without having a public road available to those other properties and to serve access to 212 like it does now. So that was communicated to them, and at this, the question back to me was whether the location of the road could be on the side where the tire shop is. Again, I reiterated that the council had indicated they were open, to a road, but the road had to be be constructed on their dime, not on the city's dime, and had to provide access. In talking to Elizabeth and comparing just what we could see on the GIS map from measurements, that location just on our own city property now, which would be the Dworsky's property in the future, there's not enough space. A road has to be 66 feet under the state law, and that there's not enough of space on that side just with the building being there, unless they negotiated with the tire shop next to them. So that's the information that was shared with them, that based on our measurements, it didn't appear that there was enough space width on that side, and that that the council would not be agreeing to any kind of easement or anything for the future, because we couldn't bind any future decisions of council. And we wouldn't be vacating a road when we didn't have a road that could be used. So the message I got back was, I appreciate the update, and let me connect with the Dworskys and get back to you, and I haven't heard back. So
I can provide you, we did have two different HVAC companies go out and look at the Chrysler Center. We utilized Lee Julson as well as Scott Bremseth. They both agree that the system is beyond repair.
Okay.
So Scott Bremseth did submit an additional quote. Chapel Central is the low quote, so I would recommend that the city if you all want to move forward with this repair, which is what Chrysler Center is looking at with a 50-50 split. I would recommend you move forward with the Chapel quote.
That was gonna be
11,000. Let's round up and say 12,000.
6,000
was close.
Yeah, so it's close to 12,000. We certainly wanna make sure that if we are responsible for the repair with the 50% of the purchase agreement, that we get a commitment of a closing date from the Chrysler Center, so we're not just stuck holding the bag of the entire repair and they keep dragging their feet forever on this sale. We wanna make sure that it's done and that we are getting that 50% back.
Get something back for what we're given.
Yes. So that's my recommendation, if you'd like to do that, Pam, do you want to see that as a motion? Probably.
I would like to see a motion for direction on the cost share of HVAC. Before that, do any of you have any questions for me about what you heard from what I had said with respect to the road?
So if they can put a road in on the tire building side, they would eat into the parking lot area of the tire building, is that correct? They have to get their permission to do so.
Yeah, they would have to get their permission to do so, they would have to make sure that there's a proper width for that road.
Like a right of way or something.
Yeah, and then we'd also have to look at, the setbacks and things like that. But again, this is only if they are coming forward with a site plan for a development that they would have to go through planning commission anyway first. to whether or not they would approve that road moving forward. Though, so they are currently thinking, oh, well, in the future, we could potentially add a road to the west side of that building. And we would continue investigating that with them once they submitted a development plan.
So that the sale isn't necessarily contingent on if this road can go there or not.
We can't make it contingent on any type of road or vacation because we have to have a public hearing
Right,
process,
right.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and I just had clarified for them that you all were open to location as long as it works on the property. They have the width that they need, and that road goes in before any type of vacation. You know, either goes in or there is a contingency of the vacation on that road being put in at their cost, not at the city cost. So really, the only possible location looking at the existing plat is on the other side of that property. Without, to your point, Councilmember Baumgartner, without having some kind of separate deal with the landowner, who I assume is the tire, business is probably the owner of that land too, aren't they?
No, I think it's Shelley Goldbush.
Yeah, so whoever the property owner on that would have to agree to, they'd have to work that out with them independently.
I think you can even get proper drainage in there between the two buildings.
Yeah, I don't know.
And the other thing is we'd have to also, and I don't know that we've looked into this, Elizabeth, is there any utilities under the current road?
You run right into a transformer at the end of it.
Is there any utilities though under the current road that
So
goes by Chrysler?
there's probably gas and.
In the right of way there is.
In the right of way there is,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so then, you know, we'd have to have some kind of agreements so that we could have access and maintain it. So it's not an easy thing to negotiate, so.
It would be. They need to hurry up, bottom line.
I don't think I'd ever take that road out of there. The highway entrance lines up with it. The state is not gonna give you another highway entrance.
We know that.
You got a lot of big trucks on that road. I mean, a lot.
Yeah.
They'll never make a turn.
All we can say is we would entertain it, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee on anything, just like you said multiple times, we can't put it on a future council, so. For me, for it to hold up this purchase agreement is, honestly, it's kind of a non-factor to me. I don't know why it should be holding it up anymore.
I think there's some education happening on municipal law and municipal process that's happening here that probably should have happened a while ago, but for at this moment, that education process is what's going on here.
I don't know, would it be out of line to say, yeah, we'll approve the HVAC repair if you say within 2 weeks you're gonna sign this purchase agreement?
Well, then I have a question to kind of piggyback on that. With the purchase agreement, what is the number? Have we established a number that they're?
Yes, sorry, the number that was established last year, $560,000.
Okay, so can we take our $6,000 off of that price
yes.
of us being on the hook? And then they're going to be a little more eager to get that project taken care of, their HVAC project taken care of, because our hands are done at that point.
We can certainly ask, currently the purchase agreement has the city and then they would be adding that number to the purchase agreement cost, so then we would recoup that number. Pam, what are your thoughts about doing it the opposite way?
Yeah, I mean, as many of us know, just from residential purchases of homes, that happens all the time where you find something and you just adjust the purchase price to accommodate for that repair. So yeah, could be something that we could counter with. Mhm.
That would, if that will need a motion, whatever you guys are deciding.
I mean, moreover, we're trying to get at, let's get this done.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're losing patience.
Agreed, 100%.
would make a motion then to reduce the purchase price by our 50% of whatever the cost is.
6,000.
HVAC,
Okay,
I'll second that.
approving the Chapel Center. Well, I suppose it'd be up to them, so.
Chapel Central quote
The low
came in the lowest.
Low bid.
Motion's been made by Evers and seconded by Howard to adjust the purchase price of the Chrysler Building property to reflect 50% of the estimated cost of updating the HVAC system. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same side. Motion carries.
Pam, did you get what you needed out of that discussion?
Yeah, I'll just I'll let Ms. Plunkett know that, and I'll also let her know that the council is getting anxious to have this scheduled for closing.
Great.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, discussion item D, the Olivia Armory.
Let me pull up my other slide. So as you're all aware with the memo I sent included in the packet, the city has been presented with the opportunity to purchase the armory. A little bit of history because my background is in history, so bear with me guys. The building was constructed in 1914. It's actually the second armory. We had a first one, but the first one burned down. A portion of the armory in 1914 housed a bowling alley for the public, but that was later removed. The public library was located in the front portion of the armory before our library building was built in 1963. It became a multi-use facility used by a variety of organizations hosting events like basketball games, speech competitions, movies, rallies, dances. I've even heard about roller skating. In May of 2023, prior to my arrival, the city of Olivia did send a request to Governor Walz to initiate the conversation of the transfer of ownership or potentially purchasing the armory. So a little bit about the two building snapshots. So it's not just the downtown armory, it's also the motor vehicle storage building. As I mentioned, the armory was built in 1914. The land area is 0.33 acres, 14,565 square feet. The building area is 21,712 square feet. It's zoned in B3, central business. The machine garage was built a little bit later, 1949. The land area there is 0.63 acres. The building area is 6,656 square feet, and it's zone B1 highway business. We did ask for the environmental report of the Armory building. Pam recommended we do that. So you can see the National Guard Armory, there was some asbestos that was identified in the thermal system insulation, floor tile, and floor tile mastic. So they have records in 1999 that the thermal system insulation was abated. They couldn't find information on the floor tile. They also showed in 2016, the sampling of roofing material showed asbestos in the exterior window caulking, and that was abated later in 2016. They've done some sampling for lead dust, and all of that is less than what it needs to be. There was also one 6,000 gallon tank. They're used to store fuel for heating. It was installed in 1966, 1999, the tank was removed. There's no leak detection. All of the testing has come back fine. So we have done a facility summary in 2024. The City Southwest Initiative Foundation and ISG, which is an engineering firm, visited the Armory to assess the facility as a candidate for a future daycare facility. They found it to be in overall very good shape, and it could be a potential candidate as a future use down the road. What it's currently used for, so the downtown Armory is used as an emergency shelter for stranded motorists. It's also used as a sports facility, the Just for Kicks dance program, basketball, Renville County Rebels floor hockey. A couple of proposed uses in discussing with staff. So first off, focusing on the motor vehicle storage building, the building just to the west of Dollar General. We've talked with the electrical department, the water wastewater department, and believe that would be an excellent candidate to actually relocate our water wastewater shed storage operations that are just south of the Chrysler building to the Armory garage. And then that shed gets turned over to the electric department to have two sheds that are needed. for their operations. All those buildings would need to be remodeled, but it would come in at a significantly lower price tag than building a brand new shed for our electrical department. This would allow our electrical department to have centralized operations, their storage as well as their vehicles are right next to each other. And this would still be a central location for our water wastewater department.
Indoor bathroom as well.
Indoor bathroom for the electric department, yes.
You sure? I wanna make sure that is.
We're so used to that, I don't.
Troy, I wanna make sure that it's on the priority list.
That is, so as, again, I will emphasize, all of the sheds need some remodeling. Even the armory shed for things like heat, insulation, some restroom facilities. But we believe that we can do that at a significantly lower price tag than building an entirely new facility. For the downtown armory, the first proposed use is of course an emergency shelter, so the city already has an agreement with the armory that enables us to utilize the building during inclement weather to house stranded motorists. But we're not allowed to store our emergency equipment in there, like our cots and blankets. So this would allow us to actually keep our emergency shelter, emergency headquarter operations centralized, downtown location, keep all of the materials there as well. If there are long-term power outages, infrastructure breakdowns, large-scale search and rescue, this really becomes your emergency headquarters. It's well located for that purpose. It has different rooms. We have cots, we have blankets, we also have animal cages, I just learned today, in case if somebody's stranded with a dog or a cat. So this would be an excellent use of the downtown center. A community center, so as you recall, reviewing our comprehensive plan, public community center was number one of what types of businesses or services are most needed in Olivia. Community center, senior center for our aging population, would be a really great location for here. You have a lot of different rooms that offer a lot of different breakout options, community ed classes, if the school doesn't have the facilities to offer those community ed spaces. And so this is really aligning with our comprehensive plan that we just passed in 2024. Finally, event rental space. So I've heard, as I'm sure you have all heard, where can we rent an event space for a baby shower or even a wedding or something like that? We're one of a very few cities in Renville County, if not the only city without a community center to offer their residents. I've been compiling different fee structures to see what people charge to rent out these spaces, so we can set that price accordingly for the market, but it would offer our residents and even our outside residents an option of where they could host various events, as well as be a source of income for the facility as well. So that's just the high overview, but feel free to let the discussion begin. I think I mentioned they're both being offered for $1 each.
You get about 75 cents.
I could never win. It's not that bad. Yeah, you
I didn't even think of that.
$1 for all of them.
I will give them free.
I will donate my own $1.
Yeah, so as Elizabeth had mentioned, we had some engineers go through the building. We should be able to put together a pretty solid CIP plan for the ongoing maintenance of it. But the building came back with no immediate needs, and it's just, obviously it's been kept up by the state and the feds for, up to their standards for so long that a lot of these projects have been even executed in the last 5 years. Last year we saw that front steps get severely damaged. I don't know how it happened, but they patched that up, and that's all extremely great looking concrete now, and the roof isn't, roofs are always problem points. The roof is in great condition. That was done sometime in the last 10 years, I think, if I remember right. But we this engineering firm, we got this grant through First Children's Finance to have this engineering firm go through there, because because of our childcare needs in town, and identified this as a potential candidate, should it ever hit the market, you know, and at that point, we were trying to drive some momentum on this, and if I remember right, it was a bullet point on the letter to the governor. Anyway, yeah, this engineering firm went through. We should be able to put together a solid CIP and plan for any future major expenses associated with this building.
And one stipulation in there is it has to be used for public use for
Public purposes
25
for
years.
25 years.
But yeah, I mean, this is actually quite an opportunity, I think.
Yeah.
Because if we can do the childcare, that's new to me, but if we can rent it out for enough events just to break even,
Right.
that's a massive win. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, we net save, let's say, $500,000 because we're not building the other one, you know, we're remodeling, that's a better use of resources, right? I mean, am I wrong?
Yeah, then we can execute a different, you know, we don't have to put off a year of other major projects in the electric department and just keep that going too.
No, it is seeming to me somewhat important that the Chrysler Center be sold before we would buy this, right?
So we have to express our interest, it doesn't say we have to close, but we have to express our interest to the state by the end of the month.
I think it's pretty easy to say my interest is
Yeah.
yes.
In a buck a piece, it's almost a no-brainer.
Even if you can,
Especially being the fact that we
Yeah.
do have needs in our community that both of these buildings can take care of,
right,
and it's,
Yeah,
the
the comprehensive plan is pretty clear. And this could nail some of the big ticket items.
This thing has been on my mind since I decided to run for city council. I knew this day was gonna happen eventually, and we've always had a need for a bigger, even when we had a community center, a bigger, better community center, so we can better serve our citizens, so.
Yeah, I have
This
memories.
is amazing for me, I
George,
can't wait to see.
you and I probably were roller skating there.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Elizabeth, I'm going to put that on your radar. You need to get a meeting night in there.
I'm working on it, I'm waiting for it to transfer.
We gotta be careful with the floor though.
We do have
It's
to
hard
be
on the
careful with
floor.
the floor.
But
So-
it's just decrease the CIP.
No, I think this is definitely a need.
Well, the fact that it's not needing $1 million to fix it up, it's in good shape.
Yeah, it's in very good shape. A lot of the environmental concerns have been remediated, and I did ask them to send us a full maintenance list, repair list of when things have been updated. So we do have that for our records to start planning and things like that.
I have some anecdotal information on the tile specifically. So I was talking with my dad about that, and there was an old building engineer. He was actually full-time. My dad remembers him putting the tile down, and then shortly thereafter, they came through with this inspection, and he had to rip the tile back out because it had asbestos on it. But obviously, that's not a very formal report, but anecdotally, perhaps the tile is not an issue.
And the reason we have Dave and Troy here tonight is in case if you had any questions about kind of our merry-go-round of utility spaces that you want to ask them directly. We have worked together to look at these spaces, to make sure department needs are being addressed, to make sure people feel comfortable with this plan. But if you have any specific questions for them, they can answer
Well,
those.
I mean, I keep circling back, my concern is the Chrysler building, and if they don't buy it, then we'd have to raise the rent to something.
Yeah, we would have to
Right.
negotiate a new lease term. They don't have an active lease, as Pam and I have discussed, so we would be working on negotiating a new lease. Obviously, the first choice is to sell it.
Yeah, and they signal they want to, so let's
Yes,
get that done.
correct, correct.
And I mean, the road thing, we'll work with them, but there's only so much we can do.
Yeah.
So you guys, so just tell me, Dave, your feelings, Troy, your feelings.
well, me and Troy both looked at like the shed down here. It's kind of an interesting shed that it's got some trusses up in there, that's why Troy looked at it and said, all that truss work,
Too low.
it's too low.
You have to raise the whole thing.
Yeah, and then you're talking, you'd be sticking a lot of money,
Mhm.
where for us. You just have to insulate it and heat it and
And drain, a small drain.
drain. Be chopping some of the floor out of it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we'd only have to do half of it. Do the eastern half first. We can always put a pipe in for the other half if someday we ever wanted to do it. Cause you don't have to go all the way out to the walls, you can leave, 5-10 feet and saw cut it and take it out.
So we might only need to heat half of that building, you say, for your,
No, I heat it all.
you heat it all.
Otherwise, you gotta build a wall inside. I don't know how you build a wall
Oh,
with
yeah.
them with
With the
them
whole
trusses
wrap
in there.
thing like that.
It's kind of weird, it's all iron up top.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It's a cool looking,
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah, it's well built, I mean,
spent a lot of time in there.
but I think you're gonna, we'd almost have to put. I think you'd be looking at putting forced air heat in, one heater in each end. To heat it. The radiant heat, I think, would be too low. Where you might, we got some things like tobacco and stuff, you might run into that.
Right, smack it.
Yeah, so you might have to take these heaters and put it up above that iron. In order to blow down.
You think the access doors are fine where they're at?
Yeah, I think they'd be alright, they'll be alright, they're a little narrow, but. It's hard to believe they're 12 foot wide.
Yeah,
Measure that.
so the flag poles would be all right there.
Light poles would be alright there, they're not in the way, if you wanna keep them there.
I know the state owns the cannon, we'll see what they decide with
Well, I
that.
thought
They didn't
they-
offer the cannon.
I thought they wanted to give that to you.
I didn't.
sure they'll give it up.
I forgot to bring that up, at the meeting.
Don't ask. I've heard stirrings of that thing's already on its way out of town.
Oh, no.
It just hasn't gotten out of here yet.
Scrap iron or?
No, the state wants it.
Ripley wants
They're
it.
not gonna leave something like that. It's headed back to Ripley.
They just repainted it,
Scuttle
and
that
dropped it
I've
there
heard.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, they don't normally leave those
No,
behind as
Look at that, Ripley,
Hasn't-
souvenirs or mementos or anything like that. You don't get to get, yeah. If the Legion / VFW, if they wanted to work on something, that's a possibility, cause they'd let it go out there, but yeah, the Scuttle is that thing's. All but on a trailer and headed to Ripley.
Mhm.
And then Troy, do you wanna mention the electric department plan?
Kind of the same plan out, on our side there, we have to take some cement out and put a drain and office and bathroom. Kind of the same deal as Dave, we already got the heat and the insulation, so, we might be a little more involved with the concrete, because we're gonna tear out pretty much the whole inside except along the walls. We want that flat, but kind of the same ordeal.
is that a good working condition for you guys?
Correct, yep. After, I mean, we've discussed it more than once, looked at a lot of things and came up with details and what have you, it's gonna work great.
Good.
Yep, for all of us.
And is the infrastructure closer to that building even, or is it about the same?
So we would take our current storage building and that would become where our office and
Okay.
trucks would be.
Okay.
So the infrastructure's right there.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
That way, he's got all his stuff in one area, he's not running from one end of town to the other.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Now, this is serendipitous for us.
Really exciting.
Should we,
So we've got to express interest.
Yeah, I
By the
mean,
end of
if
the
you
month.
feel comfortable where this discussion is at, we do have some buffer room. If you want to wait until the next meeting, but if you all are comfortable, then we can have a motion for you all approving me to reach out to let them know that the city is expressing interest in purchasing these items for $1, these buildings for $1.
I would make that motion, because it's still, there's still processes that have got to happen. It's not like you're gonna tell them today,
We
they're
don't get
gonna
the
want the
keys
dollar
tomorrow.
tomorrow, right? So, yeah, I think I'll make that motion that we do express interest so that they know that we are,
So we can start looking at what the next steps are.
yep.
I'll second that. Motion's been made by Howard, seconded by Evers to communicate to the state our interest to purchase the armory and the vehicle storage buildings at the selling price of $1 per building. Any further discussion?
And I Can I publicly fund that? Can I donate the money for it?
I'd like to do that. I'd like to step for the city.
Bam, what's the answer to
Can
that?
I donate the money for this?
Or can we at least throw a quarter a piece in so that we can get a sign on there donated by this city council?
Knowing that, they want a check.
We'd have to pay for the sign too.
Yeah, so you as council can make the decision for the city to pay for it for $1. If you want to independently donate to the city, then the council would have to accept that donation formally with
I'm
the
gonna-
designation for,
I wanna do it.
Look at the red tape involved with that.
All right, any other discussion? Any other,
$25 to do it for 2.
any other discussion? Hearing
you'd
none, all in
spend,
favor,
you'd
say
spend
aye.
more money me drafting the resolution to accept the donation than just to vote as a council
Percy,
for the
give my logic
city
now.
to pay the buck.
No other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, thank you, council. We'll move down to some reports. Does anybody from the staff have any reports for us?
I'd say you got a whole annual report from us, and then, just a big thanks to every single city department had a hand in moving city hall staff into this building last Thursday. And we're just really appreciative of all of the help, it really was a team effort. People gave their trucks, they came to hang signs. So we really have a strong team here and moving forward in all the right ways.
Thank you, Team Olivia. Any other staff out there with any reports? All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Any-
Mr. Mayor?
Pam, yeah.
I just want to make sure, I'm sure many of you are aware of all the federal executive orders that have been coming out. And I just want you to be aware that we are following those closely and we're keeping the city administrator up to date on where those are at, particularly with respect to the funding mechanisms where there has been some communications initially for there to be a freeze on some of the federal fundings going to local jurisdictions. And then there's been now a court action with a restraining order on that alleged freeze. So it is kind of a back and forth going on at the federal level right now, but we're keeping Elizabeth up to date on what to expect from the federal funding.
Would that affect our bonds?
So we've gotten the thumbs up from USDA that we're okay to move forward with our bonds there, yeah.
What else could it affect?
I mean, it could in the future, if something does happen, it could impact our federal bonds at some point.
Yeah, and I don't know do we have any funding from Department of Transportation for any road projects?
Not that I am recalling.
Yeah, so in the future, that would be something that could be impacted. So, like I said, there's nothing to report right now other than the debate is going on. And so we're trying to stay on top of it as much as we can and share the updates with city administrator.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, any reports from staff?
We just did this.
I'm
Maybe-
sorry, any
maybe
reports from
council.
council? Yeah, there we go.
No, not for me.
EDA had a meeting, we went through and discussed priorities for this year. Everybody compiled the top, what was it, 5 or 6 that we wanted, and they're gonna be compiled and we'll have a list next meeting. Otherwise, we discussed a little bit more the proposed new loan, I believe, which would be for improvements, like house improvements, commercial improvements, and then I believe they have a couple possible loans to discuss, so,
Small business loans.
yeah, small business loans. That was it.
Howie, you wanna give an update on winter warm up?
It was a good turnout, 12 tables worth of product. I think there was approximately 80 people from the community that came out for that. It was a good night, it was a quiet but successful evening. So I think that was think that's the goal with that event, and it was just nice to see, it was nice to see some different faces out this year for the event than we've seen in the past few years.
It's good to get the community together. Thank you for helping out there. Other news, we had a fire department relief association meeting last week where we discussed their saving strategy for retirements. You guys saw the result of that in our consent agenda. The county convening, the quarterly county convening where the municipalities and the county kind of get together in a brainstorming networking session that happened last week. We talked a lot about cannabis legislation. City of Olivia appears to be ahead of the pack, I guess, as far as all those laws are concerned. They were reviewing funding sources for alternative transportation, more specifically trails. And we discussed some complexities involved in budgeting for fire apparatuses or apparati, I'm not sure what the real word is there. There was a MAOSC meeting, that's the Minnesota Association of Small Cities. It's the advocacy group for cities in Minnesota, fewer than 5,000 people. Just highlighted some of the priorities for this year, including transportation revenue program. If you guys recall, a portion of auto parts sales now gets, the sales tax gets diverted over to cities of our size, smaller than 5,000 people. The revenue, we had a shortfall in revenue projections. The actual was 14 million. The projected was 18 million, so we're trying to figure out how to make up for that shortfall, where else to ask for money there. Another priority was EMS funding with an additional 35 to 50 million dollars, hopefully going to training and recruitment. Housing, looked at increasing some grants for housing programs. Audits, looked at perhaps easing the frequency and the intensity of the audits that small cities need to face every year. Is becoming more and more expensive and more cumbersome for smaller cities to afford audits at the level that they're required right now. So hopefully maybe setting a different cadence on those if that's possible. And then water infrastructure to be made a high priority in the bonding bill. George talked about the EDA, covered that very well. And just a quick heads up for the community. The One Act Play Dark Road will be having a performance on February 8th at 7 p.m. at the Bird Island campus. They did really well, made it to the second round of playoffs with their One Act Play, and they are gonna offer the public a chance to check them out February 8th at the Bird Island campus, 7 p.m. That's it. Any other notices or communications? With nothing on the agenda after that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Evers to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, everybody. We are adjourning.
Thank you.